My name is Ivan and we are at what I like to call Chateau, Yvonne, and it is the tiny house that I built over the course of a few years, which acts as not only my income property, but my home base while I travel. I caught the travel bug my last year of high school, 2007. I got invited to go on a senior cruise. Got just a taste of what the travel life could be as my first experience outside the country. And I just kind of went down this journey of wanting to see more, explore more, capture as much as I could on YouTube. And yeah, it's just become a part of my life for the past decade. So I was out traveling, having an amazing time, and my dad and brothers were going through a really hard time back at home. They got evicted from their place. They had nowhere to go. That situation had pushed me to start looking into options of having a home base, one for myself, but then also as a backup, if friends or family or someone needed it. For me to keep living my life, a tiny house just made sense. I can find a little piece of property, I can build something and not have a mortgage that's gonna require me to make X amount of money to pay for it, which then takes away from my freedom and flexibility. So I was on Zillow constantly for the next year, just constantly looking for properties, looking for lots. And that's when I happened to find this place. I tore down the structure that was here. It used to be this old shop that was probably been abandoned for probably 15, 20 years. And then I tore it down. I tried to reuse all the material, use the concrete slab as a base for things. And then, yeah, I built my shed, get things out of the weather and just practice framing. And then you slowly worked through the process of what I needed to do in order to make this thing come true. Really, I learned how to build by reading just a couple of books and then a lot of YouTube videos. And then I definitely had some people I could call and bounce questions and ideas off of, but for the most part, I just learned as I went. So the picnic table was a lot of leftover stuff I had from the demolition. A lot of the big beams and all those joists in the covered area out there, those are all from the demolition. This deck, my dad went and disassembled off of Craigslist for free. It's redwood, and it wasn't good enough for them, but it was good enough for me. And my shed's probably about 80–90% reclaimed materials from that demolition. I mean, this structure was 2,500 square feet, so there was a lot of wood in there and some really nice big beams. I used Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace to try and source everything, the secondhand stores, to try and keep costs down. Two, I think it's just better environmentally to try and use reclaimed materials. It can be really beneficial. It sucks spending so much time looking for it, but when you find something good, it's super rewarding. But people always come over and they're like, oh, you should have done this, or maybe why didn't you do that? And I'm like, because that was $5,000. So it forces you to be creative, forces you to be resourceful, and in the long run, it helps you save a lot of money. These are all black walnut trees on my property, and there were some big dead ones that I cut down or I pulled. And so I took them and had them milled. So the floating shelves in here were actually from the black walnut back here. Even the frames around my window, this was all milled from the trees back here. That backsplash, I honestly, it was secondhand, but it was still they made you buy a whole bunch of it. But luckily I was able to sell what I didn't use for almost what I bought it for at the secondhand store. So it almost paid for 70% of it, I would say. I got really lucky on my stoves. I was able to find those where they were brand new, but just weren't used. Someone bought them, couldn't use them. My tiles, my Mexican tiles in the bathroom, the Talavera, that's actually from Amazon. But the sink I brought back with me from Mexico after spending 6 months down there working and stuff. So, for me, I'm not a big TV guy, but I love watching movies, and I do think it's nice to be able to have that experience when you want it. So, tiny space, but I was able to find a good projector and put up a projector screen, which also works as a blackout window for those upper windows. So it's it's one of those things that worked out to be super practical. And this couch converts into a bed, so you can put it out, put your feet up, kick back and watch a movie. And in this small space, you're so close to it, it actually feels like you're on a big screen. There's a loft space with the bedroom. Some people like it, some people don't. I think it's fun. It can get a little warm up there sometimes though, but in order to save space, I put it over the office area in the bathroom. It creates a really cozy environment. I tried to make it big enough so at least average size people could still sit up in bed. One of the things that is kind of unique about my tiny house is it is fully functional. There's not a compost toilet, which I almost did. I originally wanted to be off grid, but actually off-grid at the time would have been way more expensive, and I just, because of my big trees back here, I just don't get enough sunlight for solar. So for me, I did connect to the grid, and because of that, it allows me to have hot water, have a heater, have an AC unit, have a refrigerator, and so you're not really skimping on anything but space. I wanted a space where I could bring people together, where I could host. So since it's so small inside, I had to bring the space outside. So I tried to make it reflect like things I like to do. That hammock space, that was probably one of the first things I even did to the property. While I was tearing everything down, I saw that little space up there with the trees and built like a little landing platform, put the hammock in, and it's been kind of like a little sanctuary ever since. I mean, I really always feel so grateful being here and just realizing that so many things align to make this dream a possibility, and I definitely don't take that for granted at all. The American dream, something that I think a lot of people have been reflecting on a lot lately, is there is that notion that like if you work hard enough, you can get a house, you can start a family, you'll have that security to take care of yourself. People are trying to embrace this tiny house movement, but what they're finding is there's a ton of red tape and bureaucracy standing in their way, because the old system is not built for this kind of a movement yet. And so unfortunately, because of the way leadership runs, because of the way that the financial incentives are, it's going to take time to change the rules to make this possible for everybody.
To stay in Ivan's tiny home yourself, visit the listing in the description below. For more unique stays, check out this playlist and subscribe to the channel for more adventure travel in Idaho and beyond. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.